All right, so I think we're live. I think we are live. Just gonna play this here. All right, so I think we're live. I think we are live. Just gonna play this here. All right, so I think we're live. I think we are live. Yeah, so we're just gonna wait a little bit, guys, just a little bit as people are hopping on. Play this here and see how today's session go. All right, so I think we're live. I think we are live. Yeah, so we're just gonna wait a little bit, guys, just a little bit as people are hopping on. Play this here and see how today's session go. Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit more, guys, just a little bit more before I start jumping into the content. I just want to make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to be working. You never know with these streams; it's so hard. Um, I wish you guys would see this. It's hard because I can't really tell because I'm using like another software, OBS. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit more, guys, just a little bit more before I start jumping. Okay. Okay. So I think we should be going, and I think it's people hop on. I think they'll just hop on, I guess. And if there's any questions and not, just again, if you guys have any question like on these live streams, just let me know in the chat box. I do have the chat box open on another screen, so I can definitely go over any question, just like we did yesterday. Again, just as a reminder, this is something new that we're trying on this channel. We've always done live recorded videos, but I just figured, you know what, let me just connect to the audience directly and then have these live streams. And I think honestly, it's just been an amazing experience. Yesterday, we had a great session. It just went just shy under 2 hours. Today's session, I don't think it'll be 2 hours just because I have other things I have to do today, and I'm sure some of you also are busy on this on typical Sundays, but it is a beautiful day, so I just found myself in a position where I said, you know what, let me just connect to this audience again. Yesterday we had some technical difficulties. We had to switch links, and we had like a few individuals who were waiting on the other previous link, and just was I didn't like that. If I'm delivering this experience, we don't really do edits on on this channel, like beautiful edits. We don't really have a beautiful studio. The least I can do is just make sure that they deliver content to the right people at the right time, right? That whenever you have these technical difficulties, I start feeling bad, and I just feel like we should be in 2022. We should have no problems when it comes to live streaming on a screen with my face and just with my audio. It's pretty straightforward. This is 2022, so we've done a lot more in 2020 so far in 2022 than having making sure that we have a webcam on with audio and a screen recording. So I did want to talk a little bit about today with this article on IGI Institute Genomics, Innovative Genomics Institute. I've talked a lot about this website in the past. I've actually covered some articles in the past. I do want to talk about it. because there's an article here that was published late November, and I think it's really important for us to take a look at. That will be basically the main subject of today's video, but obviously I also wanted to answer any of your questions. I know yesterday we had great conversation with different individuals, Frank, Savannah, we had Icona, many people there, Vadim. So if you guys are just shooting questions, Michael, whatnot, just let me know the questions, guys, in the chat box. I'll try, like I said, I have it on my other screen, so I'll try to read it and try to respond it. And then we had this interaction, and it doesn't have to do anything with CRISPR. If you want to ask about anything, I would love to talk about Bitcoin. I would love to talk about Tesla. I would love to talk about the markets in general. And if you have any question about travel, maybe just like personal stuff, I wouldn't mind answering it. It's just basically a Q&A at that point, or an AMA, or whatever you want to call it. Um, okay, so let's uh, let's go ahead. Okay, yeah. So Anil just asked me something really quickly before I jump into today's content. Let's just read this. Hello, San. Love your channel and Twitter account. My question is, would you respond to my email because it is a long question to ask in the chat? Sure. Just stay put till the end of the stream, maybe, and I'll give you the my email at the end, um, if you want, and just email me whatever you want, and then we'll hopefully answer it. I don't mind answering to you guys on email format. I prefer email format actually, but it's hard to share emails actually. Like you don't really have an email to share on YouTube and so on. So I'll put it in the chat at the end, right? Just so that people don't get distracted from the purpose here on the chat. But thank you very much for that request. Sure. So this article here is when will CRISPR cures be available, right? This is from Hope Henderson. She is one of the lead authors here on this website. She writes a lot of articles. And obviously, at the beginning of this article here, she's talking about Victoria Gray, obviously the first person that was cured from sickle cell disease from CRISPR-based therapy. Obviously, this is a reference to CTX001 from CRISPR Therapeutics, partnership with Vertex, how there's many people outside of sickle cell disease that have many diseases, including negligent diseases, basically rare diseases. There's over 200 million people of those. That's a lot of people, guys. And obviously, we're not talking about just in North America. We're talking about Africa. We're talking about Asia. We're talking about different regions around the world, LATCAR, South America. So the CRISPR path, right? So um, let's take a look at it here. The potential for CRISPR cures create hopes, but also brings up challenges for scientists, drug makers, and regulators. How do you test a treatment if you don't have enough patients for a clinical trial? That's a good question, right? How do you actually treat? How do you build a treatment without having enough patients, right? And that's why you need many programs, you need many enrollments. There's a reason why CTX001 and other programs under CRISPR Therapeutics have enrolled a total of 120 patients, like we covered, because you need that patient's sample, right? You need those data in, and if you want the FDA to ever approve it, then the FDA needs to take a look at the data, right? And actually, there's something about the FDA approval that, I actually should have known, but so basically you have phase one, phase two, phase three, right? And in fact, you don't actually have to go through all these phases, right, in order to get submit your FDA approval. Basically, you can actually jump and skip steps in order to just basically go directly to the FDA office and say, look, I am submitting an approval for this drug that has potential to cure this many people, and here's my data. But the topic becomes, how do you get that here's the data moment? Is you actually have to go through that phase one, phase two, phase three, but it is actually not required to go through the standard phase one, phase two trials, because from what I've read, if you can actually prove to the FDA that whatever you're trying to submit here actually has data already submitted through maybe a parallel program or maybe something you've done outside of the standard phase one, phase two for that particular program, it's actually quite interesting. So that's just a one note. I'm going off topic here, but this, I find it interesting that the FDA actually does not require you to go through what I thought was the standard process, right? Preclinical, you submit IND, and then you go through phase one, phase two, then you go for phase three, and then you submit for FDA approval. It's actually not that. I don't know if this article is going to cover it, but let's take a look. It concludes when researchers submit their data and plan for human test clinical trials to the FDA. If data and plans are sound, the FDA will let researchers start testing. So obviously, we're talking about IND filings as they get accepted. Clinical trials are done in phases that each take multiple years. Phase one clinical trials usually include just a handful of people. As phases progress, the number of patients increases. Clinicians start assessing whether the treatment improves patient health after third or fourth phase. Fourth phase, the FDA or similar government body may approve the treatment for broad public use if the data is safe and effective. From preclinical research to approval, developing a new true therapy is usually 10 to 15 years. That's a lot of time, guys. That is indeed a lot of times. Okay, this is no joke. 15 to 10 years is a lot from the moment it's discovery phase all the way to actual FDA approval and then monitoring. We're talking at least 10 to 15 years, right? And again, this is for new therapies, right? Just keep that in mind. And this is just an average figure over time. This has nothing to do specifically to CRISPR. We actually don't know that number yet because we haven't even gone that far yet. But we believe that the FDA, first FDA approval on this channel, we believe, and we've made that call many times, is that by 2023, we will have the first FDA CRISPR drug ever available, or at least the first CRISPR therapy ever available. This will be from CTX001 to tackle sickle cell disease and beta thalassemia separately. This will be a partnership between Vertex, like I mentioned, and CRISPR Therapeutics. They will go commercial, and afterwards, in my opinion, you will see many of these companies, CRISPR companies, um, publishing their data and making sure that the FDA is in place to approve those programs, whether that is from CRISPR-Cas9 nuclease cuts, double-stranded breaks, or it is from their revolutionary base editing from, for example, Beam Therapeutics, or even the licensing their technology to Verve Therapeutics, or then you have these wild play cards that I call them from like Caribou Biosciences that hold proprietary technology. For example, their Chardonnay's rDNA tackling CAR T cells and also their future NK cells, natural killer cells, to basically tackle cell cancer, make those CAR T cells more durable, and obviously that is what Caribou is trying to achieve, at least for now. So that's just me going on off topic here, but my point here is that this is how it looks the landscape right now with when it comes to FDA approval. You obviously need to have some reference there because if you want to answer the question to someone asking you how long will it take for the first CRISPR drug to ever be FDA approved, you need to be able to answer that using those references in the past. But again, those have nothing to do with CRISPR specifically. In the past, things were different for different technologies. Maybe they were similar to CRISPR at the time, but today there is nothing alike CRISPR. CRISPR is on its field on its own. It is a vertical on its own, and it is here to cure cancers and to cure diseases like it's done so far with sickle cell disease, beta thalassemia, and what we're seeing with CAR T cells. At least from CRISPR Therapeutics, like I mentioned, they've dosed 120 patients out of the 150 worldwide CRISPR-based therapy from any company or government or authorities or universities, right? Which is quite amazing. The smaller the patient group, the less chance to recoup their R&D costs and make profit, right? So obviously that is a given. I think it's about $1 billion to really go and make that drug available to the public that it takes from R&D, marketing, sales, commercialization, governments, administrations. All of that is related to about $1 billion, right? That's the estimated figure. The fact that genome editing makes it possible to treat all genetic diseases, in principle, that doesn't mean that biotech companies will take on every disease in practice. In best scenario, it takes 3 years to get clinical trial, which can cost more than 6 million per disease. Those are big hurdles for realizing the promise of CRISPR and addressing unmet medical needs, says Dr. Yurnov. I would argue it's a lot more than 6 million per disease, and I would definitely say that this is a correct statement. I think it's unreasonable to think that every disease will be tackled by every single company. Because there's need, obviously, this is, we live in a business world, we live in the real life where you have to respond to shareholders. We have what we call a business, and a business needs to survive, right? There are costs and there are profits to be made and there are revenues to generate. So it makes total sense that you can't address every single genetic diseases, because some of those rare genetic diseases unfortunately do not make the cut as to making sure that the business survives to the earning cost. But the point is that the costs are decreasing over time, right? So maybe currently, for example, maybe this, let's just say right now, maybe there's like 100 disease that there is no way, there is absolutely no way that any company will ever tackle in the next 5 years. Well, chances are that in 5 years, when we do have this discussion, this 100 figure will decrease to 50, because now the cost will decrease so much that now there will be companies or governments authorities willing to pay upfront to those companies to tackle those 50 diseases that in the past wouldn't be able to be covered because of their cost and unreasonable way for governments. And plus, there are priorities to be made, right? This is an opportunity cost we've talked about in this channel. I mean, this is just basic stuff that has nothing to do with CRISPR right now. I'm just talking just in general in business. It just doesn't make sense, right? You can't just be tackling every single thing, right? Tesla didn't do that with electrical vehicles. Apple didn't do that with electronic devices. Microsoft didn't do that with business applications. I mean, there are so many examples, right? You need to focus on what you can achieve that makes a business case viable, and then you can drill down on that, penetrate on that, and it has cost decrease over time. This is the Wright's law. In technology, we talk about the Moore's law, but in genomics, we often talk about the Wright's law. And basically, what it is that over time, just as a really layman's term, is over time costs will decrease, right? It's just point blank, right? Costs will decrease because of technology advancements, right? Genome sequencing 20 years ago was so much more expensive than it is today, right? And this is what I think Big's idea of 2022 from ARK Invest in the upcoming days will reveal. I think we'll see a lot more from genomics. I think we'll see a lot more about CRISPR genome editing. And I think the main point that I think Kathy Woods and Ali Yerman and the team there will try to show is that the cost of editing, the cost of sequencing, the cost of diagnostics, and when it comes to genomics, will decrease over time. This should be your main focus, your main bet, because it just doesn't make sense right now to claim that we just won't ever be able to tackle many diseases because the costs don't make sense. Over time, they will make sense. It's just a question of when, and obviously that is the big topic, the big question. Whether it'll be in 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, that is the big question. But currently, as we speak, just like here it's mentioning, 95% of 5,000 rare genetic diseases have no disease modifying treatment. So currently, right now, 95% of those, your diseases, your rare diseases, whatever you want to group them in, right? There actually are no treatments for it. And this is why the FDA has designed the ODDP program, right? The Orphan Drug Designation Program, which we've seen CRISPR Therapeutics gotten from, and TLA got it. And it's not just the FDA in US, there's also Health Canada with type 1 diabetes from Biocide and to CRISPR Therapeutics. There's also EMA, the government body in Europe regions. So there is a reason why these government bodies, they want to provide special financial incentives, because if you don't do that and if you don't provide those incentives, then no company will cover it. And this is a very serious topic, because you may have the best technology that may potentially cure that disease in the future. But if it doesn't make sense financially, you'll never see a company tackling it, right? I get these bunch of questions with people saying, "Hey, will this disease ever be treated? I have this disease." Well, I don't want to be the person that bears the bad news to you, but if it doesn't make sense for a business to cover it financially, they will never cover it, because that's the whole point of capitalism, right? And again, you have these government bodies that will provide financial incentives, and it's not like they're spending this money out of thin air, right? I mean, they may be printing money, but that's another topic, maybe for another day. But the point is, this is basically taxpayers' money. Ultimately, this is their citizens paying for it, right? As a community, we want to make sure, although this may not be our brother or sister, or a cousin, or someone related to us, as a community, we want to make sure that all of our community members, all of our society is taken care of. And these rare diseases, they're paralyzing people. They're making, governments pay a lot more for them, for incentives to them, individuals. Businesses are affected, and you ultimately want to live in a society where people are productive and efficient. And obviously, you need those government bodies to oversee all of that and say, you know what, this specific disease can be treated by this company, so we will give you the drug designation. We'll give you special incentives, reduce costs, reduce delays, give you priority to that region to cover that disease because we believe you can do it and those people need it. Without us getting involved, us being the FDA, us being the government body, you're never going to cover it because it just doesn't make a business case. We realize that, and that's why we're doing it. That's exactly what's being explained here. So it's a very important topic in healthcare, in genomics. I think it has to be mentioned. The whole point of Cures 2.0 Bill Act is that, right? The Cures 2.0 Bill Act, which is based on the Cures 1.0 Bill Act, which was passed in 2016. The whole point of that bill in 2.0 that is expected to pass sometime this year is to provide more incentives to companies like Teladoc, to companies like CRISPR Therapeutics, to companies like Beam Therapeutics, to genome editing, to diagnostic companies, sequencing companies like Pacific Bio, BNGO. The whole point of that, and Vitae, DNA, is to provide incentives to them to pursue their R&D, right? The government is like, we understand, you guys are working on revolutionary technology. We understand you need resources, time, you need to reduce costs, you need to reduce delays, and we're going to provide you to that. So there is a role from governments, right? There is a role from public institutions, right? Never make the mistake of thinking those are separate, right? Private businesses are not separate, right, from government bodies. They are all intertwined. This is all a community. This is what makes a community. You have the patient, you have community members, you have government bodies, you have private businesses, you have public businesses. They're all intertwined, right? So keep that in mind. Just to chat very quickly here. How long does the FDA will reply to CRISPR when they file for approval? Document, sure. So, from what I've seen, and again, these numbers, I would love someone a little more experienced than I am in this space because you can actually get that answer just by taking comparison with other drugs when they were filed, non-CRISPR drugs. Like I'm talking about just other new therapies that were filed. Um, and from what I've found, from what I've heard, and again, I definitely need to do more research, like you're asking here, is that it actually takes a few months, could take a few months. So what the expectation is that by late 2022, they'll file it with Vertex leading the way to file for CTX001 for FDA approval. That's the plan right now. Everything's still on plan. Again, things are subject to change, but that is the plan from both companies. And then the idea is that within the first half of 2023, they'll have a response as to whether it is approved or not. In my opinion, if by end of 2022 the data still shows efficient, safe from CTX001, I see no reason to deny it unless there's something that we're missing. Again, we can never make those decisions. There's a reason the FDA exists to make those hard decisions. But everything we've seen so far in this channel, we believe that it will be approved within the first half of 2023. So we're looking at a few months. Again, what is the exact amount? I'm sure we can find it at some point written in the FDA policies website. I am sure. But great question, Savannah, and shout out, Savannah. Thanks for joining the channel live stream. Hey Renan, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for joining. I know you had a big question, and I'm gonna try to answer it later. In that comment you said, told me earlier, I just responded to you just before joining the live stream. So thank you so much for the comment there. I'll try to address it as we go through the stream. But you do have a question here, so because you asked for it, let's try to answer it. Does any of these DNA editing companies work on plants, farm animals to make them better? No need for extreme FDA approvals here. Yeah, so I think this is a great point, and I know why you're asking that because I know you have I think it's your son that works in this sector. I think the only company that I've come about, and I really try to research hard into this, is Caribou Biosciences. Caribou Biosciences actually have a partnership with Genus, I believe, the company or the organization Genus, and they are tackling everything with agriculture, livestock, if I remember. And I know Caribou do hold patents on non-human therapeutics when it comes to their CRISPR, when it comes to CRISPR. So they do hold patents. So if there's one company that you can make a bet on that will tackle animal farms and livestock and obviously agriculture, plants, vegetation currently right now the way it is, I believe it'll be Caribou Biosciences. But I totally agree with you that I think there should be a better approach to that. I'm so surprised that all these companies are focusing on human diseases, yet none of these companies have doubled down on agriculture, livestock, and plus you just made a perfect fact there. You just said yourself, you said no need for extreme FDA approval. FDA approvals are extremely strict when it comes to human therapeutics for obvious reasons, right? Humans are not the same as vegetation, or I know a lot of people will hate that statement, this statement I'm about to make, but animals are not at the same level of humans when it comes to how for example, the FDA will approve it, right? Because a human having basically, dying, basically having a serious adverse effect from a drug is a lot more severe than, for example, just a particular drug affecting a plant or affecting, unfortunately, an animal, which obviously to me, I think it's cruel. I think we should never deploy a product that will kill animals or that will put them in a position where they will be in pain for life or have serious adverse effect. But I'm just spitting the facts, right? I'm just calling spade a spade. The agriculture side of things, the FDA approvals are a lot more lenient, and I think companies should take advantage of that. Plus, the TAM for that space is huge, right? It is so huge. I would love someone just to ask that question, like Rachel from Caribou, or just any other CEO, like, are you willing to double down on agriculture, livestock, and animals? And if the answer is no, why? And if the answer is yes, can I have an ETA? I think that would be a great question. So that is an amazing question, Renan. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. Hopefully, we can have you on for other questions as we go forward. Just discovered your channel, great stuff. I love your great technology in biotech. Thank you so much, Bulldog, B Bulldog, Daggy, Daddy. That's a great name. Thank you so much. Like I've mentioned in the past, everything we do in this channel is for free. We provide information for free. We ask you guys nothing. I don't have merch to sell. I don't have courses to sell. Nothing. I've always kept my word. I said everything this channel will be about is free information, education for everybody. We don't provide financial advice, but we do provide education information for free. And this information is sort of garnered and researched over time by many people. It's not just me. Yes, I'm the one speaking in front of the webcam with a mic, but ultimately there is our community. The people in this community is amazing. Just look at that question just above your question from Rana. It is not just a simple question. There are questions that sort of make you think about CRISPR. It makes you think about the technology. It makes you think about a lot more, and then you research a lot more. I mean, I had questions with people saying, "Well, why can't NTLA get into base editors?" And that opened a whole can of worms talking about base editing. And obviously, if you're new to this channel or new to this community, don't understand the difference between CRISPR-Cas9 and base editors, I would highly advise you to research that. There's obviously information on Google or on this website that we're looking at, or just on our video catalog, right? We have over almost 250 videos of basically content going over CRISPR, going over base editors, prime editors, going over companies. And again, this is we're doing this for free. I do this for free. I do this out of my passion, and it's amazing. I'm having an amazing time talking to you guys, just like I am right now. This is gonna be one of many live streams, and hopefully you guys can appreciate that, and we can always help each other's out, right? So guys, I'm just gonna go over here the article because I know there's other people talking here, but I do want to go over this article. I really think this article is important for us to sort of set when it understand when it comes to CRISPR, FDA approval, and so on. What's the different? What's different about gene editing therapies, right? So what is the difference about genome editing compared to other therapies that are non-CRISPR, non-genome editing, right? The delivery, right? The unknown side effects, obviously unknown side effects comes to the fact that genome editing is still new when it comes to CRISPR. I mean, 2012, we had the first amazing published paper that it revealed everything about CRISPR-Cas9, whether that is about the guide RNA, whether that is about the cut itself, or whether that it is about tcRNA. Um, it's all that's the description was set in 2012. So we're less, almost basically almost 10 years into it. We need more time and more side effects will be discovered. But again, so far data has come into it. We can only reference the data. I don't speculate over what can happen. I look at the data we have so far. That is my investment thesis when it comes. It boils down to that, right? What is the data we have? And so far, the preclinical data and the phase one, phase two clinical data and phase three from CTX001, for example, everything has shown to me that we can cure cancers, we can cure diseases, at least many diseases, maybe not all diseases, maybe it'll require better delivery techniques. Obviously, we talked a lot about this in this channel, being what we talked about, what Dr. Liu's lab is working on. But currently, this is how it works. I mean, a great analogy is like airplanes, right? Airplanes, let's be honest, right? Airplanes do pollute the world, right? It is a very serious issue. I mean, there's a lot of people that are anti Elon because he's always taking his private jet. But look, we don't have an alternative right now, right? What is your alternative if you want to go from Toronto to Pakistan, for example? What is your alternative? You're not going to go in boat. I mean, this is going to take you weeks, right? And it just doesn't make sense, right? So your alternative, there is no alternative. You have to take the aircraft. You have to take the airplane. Yes, it's going to pollute the world. You can make your diesel, your fuel, a little more, a lot more climate friendly, a lot more quote unquote greener, but it's still going to pollute the world because we don't have alternatives. And the proper alternative at some point in the future is obviously electrical airplanes, electrical aircraft. But we're not there yet, right? And the same question comes about with diagnostics, with measures, with metrics, with delivery. We're not there yet. So because we're not there yet, we have to work with what we have right now. And what we have right now is actually curing cancers and curing diseases. And I just don't see the point of us waiting for the perfect storm to happen. And while we're waiting that, there are many patients dying from sickle cell disease, beta thalassemia. We've seen how many patients there are in US alone. And this time is ticking, right? For a lot of these people, just doesn't make sense to me, right? It generally does not make sense to me. And I'm not saying that just because I want my companies that invest in CRISPR to prosper, to have more funds into it, to have more leniency from the FDA. It's not just that. Obviously, I would love to see that, and I'm sure some of you would love to see that as well. But ultimately, we have to think about the humans. We have to think about the patients. Many of them are dying every single day, literally every single hour to the minute. And this is because we don't have an actual treatment viable. Now, am I saying that we should have CRISPR just deploying on the field without any safety measures, without any safety efficiencies? Obviously not. We need precautions. We need testing data. We need to go through these phase one, phase two, phase three trials. But ultimately, the difference about where we stand right now and where we want to go in the future, to me, what we're seeing here should not be blockers. That is my opinion. I'm sure some of you feel the same way, or maybe not. I know a lot of you want CRISPR to go prosper, but you don't want them to have a special card or a special green card from a green light from the FDA, considering that what other companies have tried to do with other technologies that have failed, quote unquote, Bluebird Bio. We've all seen what happened with Bluebird Bio. So completely agree. But again, Bluebird Bio is not CRISPR, and CRISPR is not Bluebird Bio. We should not confuse both companies or technologies. These are separate technologies. It's just like saying, Netflix streaming is the same has, for example, Apple streaming. It doesn't work like that. There is no same. Yeah, there may be some similarities, but there are differences, right? With the content, with the delivery, with the leadership, with the platform, with their mission statement, with the contents. Like, is it intended for kids? Is it intended for the general public? Is it intended for the adults? There's so many variables here, right? So platform technology, a way for CRISPR cures. If you look at the numbers, 5,000 diseases, 10, 15 years for each therapy seem impossibly long. Totally agree with you. One solution for rare genetic disease could be a platform technology approach. A platform ticket is when all of the parts of a treatment are standardized into a single off-the-shelf package. Only certain pieces of platform are given. So actually here, Anderson, she's actually giving a solution for this 10 to 15 years each therapy FDA approval, right? She's talking about platform, right? You can think of ordering like a burrito. Every burrito at your local shop may have the same tortilla, beans, rice, guacamole, and sour cream. This is the platform. The only thing that changes is the protein component that meets the need of the person ordering the burrito. Grilled chicken, beef, carnitas. Hey, this is a great analogy, actually. This is a great analogy because you make a platform and you can scale that throughout numbers, right? So you can use that with genome editing. This is what she's explaining here. A guide on RNA molecule that brings the Cas protein to a specific spot in the DNA. The Cas protein makes a cut in the DNA at that spot. The DNA letters can be added, removed, or changed using the custom DNA template. CRISPR-based therapies treatments for the basic burrito would be the Cas protein that cuts the DNA, the method of delivery to the cells, how the treatment is administered, and what the dose a patient gets. The only thing that would change would be the sequence of the guide RNA and any DNA replay treatment that needs to be specific for different edits. Right. So obviously we're talking about CRISPR-Cas9 double-stranded cuts here, but this is a great analogy actually with the burrito one. I'm actually quite surprised that this is the first time I see that analogy, to be honest. It's actually a really good one. Ultimately, the idea is that once the various part of the platform are approved for one treatment, they wouldn't need to individually be tested and approved again and again, dramatically cutting down on research. So this is what I was telling you guys. The first FDA-approved CRISPR drug will be the hardest, which is from CTX001, in my opinion. But once that is approved, then all these companies will benefit from that. Beam Therapeutics, Verve Therapeutics, uh, Graphite Bio, Caribou Biosciences, NTLA, Editas, all these companies depend. No matter their first generation, second generation of CRISPR, the point is that as you approve one CRISPR therapy for the first time ever in hopefully 2023, for CTX001 between CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex, then you can scale that, right? And this is what Anderson is talking about. This is what she's talking about. She's talking about how you get the platform approved. And then you wouldn't need to test the whole thing again. You wouldn't need to go through the whole CTX001 testing because it is already tested. The only thing that you need to prove and test now being changing that little, basically the only change will be the sequence in the guide RNA and any DNA repair template. And that obviously depends on the different edits that are required, what are the diseases you're trying to tackle, right? So the FDA is actively working on developing guidance for the new genetic diseases, genetic technologies that could benefit. Yeah, developing platform at the IGI, creating a new platform for curing diseases is the focus for IGI Center. Sure. Identify mutation, collect patients, automate guide design, correct mutation, expand cell, deliver repair cell therapy patient. This honestly, this feels a lot like Amazon distribution centers. I don't know if you guys get the same vibe, but it's all about the factories. It's all about manufacturing factories. Unrated fact, and I think unrated topic about CRISPR-based therapies for ex vivo, for example, from CRISPR Therapeutics for CDK001. Not anybody can just spin off a sickle cell disease therapy or a beta cell therapy ex vivo approach, right? Because you need factories, and those factories are limited to about 1,000 patients a year. And then you need to basically maintain those factories. And then there's the whole automation, robotics that we've seen Dr. Sam talk about in his interview with Ark about efficiencies. And he talked about how 60,000 square feet, right? A 60,000 square feet, which is what their current new factory is all about, trying to get ready for the FDA approved CTX001. There's 60,000 square feet, which is a lot, but not that much, right? It's quite small actually, compared to uh, the standard company with 600,000 square feet. They actually can produce similar or better results than a 10 times bigger factory. Obviously, not a CRISPR-based factory. It's just a general healthcare slash medicine slash genomics slash biotech company, which is amazing, right? Because Now you see a company that's focusing on CRISPR, the technology, but also on the production side of things. And I think a lot of Tesla fans that are coming from this space will appreciate this because a lot of people actually understand that electrical vehicles, it's not just actually electrical vehicles, it's not just building the prototype, it's not just building one single car that can go 500 miles, for example, before charging it. It's actually about having the factory, a product that builds the product, right? It's the production factories. We've seen it with Giga Berlin, Giga China, Giga Texas. We're seeing it, those new generation of factories compared to their factory in Fremont in California. It's all about the factory, right? So this is actually underrated fact. It's all about distribution. This is very underrated. We actually talked a little bit about that with Teladoc, obviously trying to tackle different segment there, but there are some similarities there. So keep that in mind. And then, the article obviously ends with talking about, how, this technology, CRISPR, um, can potentially cure many, many diseases. Just like Dr. Yurnov said, work on editing blood stem cells started with the goals of curing a new therapy for sickle cell disease, but editing these cells has also potential to cure primary disorders that leave people with severely immunocompromised, eventually the blood cancers like leukemia. Immunocompromised, guys, this is very hard on people. This is, I mean, the best representation I can give you guys is when they lose hair and so on. You see patients without hair on their head, and because they're going through these chemotherapies and so on that are so hard on the body. It's like, the best analogy I've said it in the past, it's like a car, right? Let's say your car has a specific issue, right? Let's say it's a specific sensor, right? What would you do, right? What would you do in 2022? Your mechanic would basically, or yourself, if you're well versed into it, fixing your car, basically you would look at that sensor, use a diagnostic tool on your car first, see that that sensor is broken, basically maybe use YouTube or maybe use some sort of documentation to see how to fix that that sensor. Usually they know by heart because of experience, and they go to that sensor, whether it's under the seat, under the hood, under the wheel. The wheel doesn't matter where it is, right? They go to that sensor, they take it off, and they replace it with a new sensor. They patch everything up, everything's good. That there is no issue anymore. The car runs perfectly fine after that. That is the eventual dream with CRISPR, right? You look at that specific mutation in the gene and you fix it, and then you're done. The patient is cured, and you move forward. That patient can now have his life back to normal, her life, or his or her life, and then basically you've basically extended the lifespan of that human. Right now, some of the alternatives that we have, first of all, um, we don't really have ways to treat diseases. What they're doing here for some of the blood cancer, like leukemia, for example, is they're basically taking that car and they're hammering that car with like a freaking jackhammer, and until you basically, for whatever reason, you hope that that sensor works again. That is what's going on with chemotherapy. That is literally what is chemotherapy all about. It's about destroying your cells until those bad cells disappear, and hopefully you can have enough good cells to basically live your life in a sustainable way, which obviously is the worst way to fix a problem, right? It's like, there's so many analogies we can give you, but the best one is literally if your car has a problem and you just hammer your car until it starts working, and it just doesn't make sense, right? So that doesn't make sense. So um okay, so I got a lot of questions here. I just done with the article here, so hopefully you guys appreciate this article. Just one really thing, because I really want to have my coffee here. I'm gonna refill this coffee. I'll be back with you guys in literally like 10 seconds. So just give me a second. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna answer some of these questions in the chat box. There's lots of questions here from different individuals, so let's go over them. So where did we leave off here? Um, okay, the Giant Bayer company. Random says the Giant Bayer company just developed a new onion. They call it Sunion, using conventional methods, crossbreeding that does not make your eyes tears. For me, it could have been done by simple DNA editing and removing one gene. That's a great example. I actually did not even know that. So that's interesting. And we actually talked a lot about vegetation and agriculture. We talked a lot about how you can edit like specific diseases or specific traits in tomatoes, onions in this case, rice and wheat, whatever, and basically make them sustainable to certain climates, make them sustainable to certain environments. And that, what that does, it actually addresses the world hunger issue, right? Because now you have fruits and legumes and vegetations that can actually sustain different weathers, and you can even improve the quality of those foods, right, and make them more nutritious, right? And this is obviously another can of worm that I hope one of these CRISPR companies will venture into, because I just, you think about the company like Beyond Meat, like forget about CRISPR company Beyond Meat, like why wouldn't they enter this space, right? This is literally what they're all about, right? It's about using science to improve food quality without obviously killing animals or without polluting our world. And I think that is something that is very novel, and I think CRISPR-based therapies can definitely assist, right? Genome editing, right? Hey Larry, thank you for joining, Larry Watts. Good morning, Hassan. Any news about Mammoth or Prime going public? Thanks for your work. Yeah, so I think a lot of us are looking forward for Mammoth Biosciences and for Prime Medicine to go public. Unfortunately, we have no information, inside information. The only public information I have, anyways, is from through public interviews. And I know Mammoth Biosciences, the CEO. I've seen his interviews. He is very well spoken. He seems like a really, really focused person, a very technology person that is really focused, narrow focus, obviously getting his inspiration and his lessons through the legendary Jennifer Doudna, which we've covered in this channel. Obviously, 2020 Nobel Prize winner along the side with Emmanuel Charpentier. But Mammoth Biosciences, I'm really looking forward for their IPO. Unfortunately, we don't have any information. I actually do not foresee any of these companies going public anytime soon because of the public markets, the way they're reacting. So hopefully we can talk about public markets later on in this stream. But there is no way they're going to go public with this market, with all these companies going through the bear market. It just doesn't make sense because you're basically selling yourself short. It's better to be a private company, have full autonomy over your company, don't have those quarterly earnings, don't have public shareholders to answer to, and basically you can tell your current employees and current shareholders, just wait it out. Let's wait for the markets to rebound so we can basically share your shares at a higher price in the future. Obviously, this is just basic one-on-one business. So nothing yet currently in terms of dates, but thank you so much, Larry, for joining, and great question. I have an oncology focus. By the way, my wife is in charge with oncology education at large hospital and chain in South. I think in South. I don't know what you meant by South, but I think you're thinking of South US maybe. But that's actually really really interesting. Um, yeah, I think oncology is a huge space. I think CRISPR Therapeutics are trying to tackle some of these programs, CTX 110, CTX 1120, CTX 130, through their oncology programs, obviously tackling the problem with making the CAR T cells more durable, which basically means you can tackle cancers longer in the human body, which makes it more probable to beat cancer in that human body, right? Uh, so that is a novel program there. So shout out to your wife for working on that. I would highly advise you, Bulldog Daddy, to look into other companies like Caribou Biosciences, Beam Therapeutics, NTLA. All these companies are trying to tackle different diseases. Not all of them try to tackle CAR T cells, but some of them are. So you can always research that and maybe share those thoughts with your wife. I think that would be a great, great topic to have, because it is definitely a novel thing to do. It's I was talking about this yesterday. I was talking about how it's hard to make videos, like whatever I'm doing here, live stream, answering questions, trying to make it interactive with you guys, and trying to make it, relevant, and trying to have fun with you guys, and having you guys. I know you guys are all busy. Hopefully you're having your coffee alongside with me, and all doing all that is definitely hard. But then I see people working in hospitals, and I see people working in nursing homes and blue collar jobs. Those are tough jobs, restaurants, and cleaning streets and cleaning sewages, and those are hard, tough jobs. And shout out, my hats off to those individuals, because as much as I can say it's hard for me to do that, it is nowhere near the level of complexity that it takes to work in hospitals where things are so hectic, especially with what's happening in the last 2 years. So shout out to your wife. Thank you so much for sharing that. Related to that, one day very soon meat will grow in lab. This will allow meat with different tastes, textures. Absolutely. Can you imagine meat with some genes from pepper to make it more tasty? Actually, this is perfect, right? Beyond Meat, right? What is Beyond Meat all about? Like, let's Google that, right? Beyond Meat and Possible Burgers, what they're all about. This is all about vegan burger meats. I was listening to an interview with Beyond Meat. This was like back in like 2019, I think. It was like when I was on my way to work, those are the good old days when you used to drive to work, right? For people that are obviously working remotely these days. But when I was going to work, I remember listening to this podcast. The CEO of Beyond Meat, I don't even remember his name. I can Google it. We can find out. But that's not the point here. He was talking about the company to an investor channel. I think it was I forgot what channel it was on a podcast. It's a well-known channel, podcast episode, and he was talking about how Beyond Meat. This was actually just shortly after it went public, like within the year, and the stock went up and then it crashed. I don't even know what the stock is today, but the point is that he was going over the company. He was talking about their technology, and they were talking about how they have labs. Their scientists are literally working on molecules. They're basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to get, like, for example, molecules from peas, from chickpeas, and from like different vegetation like tomatoes and onions and garlic. Like different molecules can give you that taste and that smell. Like right now they're working on the smell part. At least that was 2 years ago, when 3 years ago at this point, when I was listening to that podcast episode. I have no idea where they stand today, but what I know is that they all of that, and knowing all of that, right? Knowing that they're trying to tackle that problem, making your vegan plants vegan, basically making meat vegan, and making sure that we get meat from sources that don't involve killing animals and directly from animals. To me, it makes perfect sense for these companies, Beyond Meat, for example, to partner up with CRISPR companies, because what is it all about, right? What is it all about? What are you trying to tackle? You're trying to basically stimulate genes that basically resemble other genes, in this case, meat genes, right? How can you get your vegan product, right, to stimulate the same senses like taste, smell, the same way that current meat-based products are, right? Chicken, beef, lamb. How do you do that? And how do you do that is basically tackling gene. Now, obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that, but like you mentioned, Ranan, it's a lot easier to get FDA approved based therapies when it comes to vegetation, when it comes to animals, when it comes to plants, when it comes to legumes, fruits. I would love to see them tackle that. I would love to see those partnerships. That is a moonshot, but it's not really a moonshot, right? When you think about it, I do expect these companies to partner up with, and you would see these partners up like, look, we're gonna pay you 500 million to work on those products that we're trying to tackle for the next 5 years, something along those lines, right? I would love to see that. I would love to see these companies spin off, like CRISPR companies spin off from human therapeutics. I think human therapeutics is a huge field. I think it's definitely lucrative, and I think they should definitely double down as future goes by. But I think meanwhile they should be also addressing the plants, because then we open up a whole can of worm with like sustainable life overseas, right? And when I mean overseas, I'm not talking just on the planet. I'm talking other planets, right? I'm not just talking about Earth, right? I'm talking about on Mars, on space, right? They're moon based that they're trying to settle with US, NASA, and with SpaceX. You're gonna need those genome editing tools, right? You're gonna need those vegetations. You're gonna need those plants. You're gonna ultimately need those animals to be able to sustain those life environments, right? And I think it is definitely a topic to be had, right? The same way that we talk about Starlink and Teladoc, right? Yesterday, that's the way I see with crypto companies, with like SpaceX or with space companies. They're trying to make it sustainable for life to happen overseas, over our planets, right? And you cannot do that with moving payload from one payload to other. You need tools to generate that to make it sustainable over there, right? Vadim says scaling and price of treatment. Hope they make it affordable for everyone. I believe they will need editing for food on Mars. Absolutely. That's a great segue, right? That's exactly what I was talking about, Vadim. And I know, Vadim, you're very, very well versed on Tesla. Obviously, we all follow what Elon Musk does with with SpaceX, with Starlink, so we know exactly what's going on with their mission on Mars. So you need editing for food, right? For sustainable life on planets. Like I think people have this image that it's gonna be like moving one payload, like bunch of fruits and legumes, and I'm sure there will be some of that, but you can't be doing that. You can't be just moving bunch of like freaking like agriculture plants and like freaking like boxes of like plants and farming and then move that from Earth to Mars, right? You need efficient tools to generate all of that right directly in Mars with scientists, with laboratories, and this is going to be a whole wide of resources required, not just from material sciences, but also with talent, right? Talent pool. You need scientists, you need genome editing companies. In my opinion, companies that will partner up, lend their technology, but also tools, make it more efficient, diagnostic tools, metrics to show you live what's going on with the genome, literally with the DNA. I think this is a huge bet. I think this is definitely going to happen. So I really do think it's going to happen. I really am a huge bull about that. You guys know I'm all about CRISPR and making sure that CRISPR goes beyond just human therapeutics. We go a whole vast array of applications. Oh, so before I go over it, let me just check some other things here, just make sure everything is working fine. Yeah, I love doing these live streams. I honestly do because I'm interacting with you guys. I mean, it's one thing to interact with you guys on Reddit, Twitter, YouTube comments, but it's another thing to have it live. Literally, you have me live talking about stuff. And I think I got a comment the other day. Someone DM'd me, and like obviously not gonna say the name, but someone DM'd me and said, it's crazy how you can talk without a script, right? And it's just and this is stuff I've been saying, right? I don't do edits in my video. Obviously, I do have like a bullet point of what I want to tackle. Not all videos, but I do sort of have an idea what I've tackled. It's not like I just turn on the webcam and just start talking, right? I'm not that level of a speaker, right? But I do, have some bullet points. That's it. I don't have a script. I have a couple of websites I want to tackle, just like what I'm doing here. I have a general gist of things, but I'm very flexible. I go over topics. I talk about tangents. I don't have a script to go over. And the individual told me, they were surprised at how I can do it. But honestly, it's not that hard. But I can understand why some people would think it's hard, especially some YouTubers. And again, everyone works really hard in the space, so I'm not gonna bash anybody, but I see some people editing their videos like on a continuous basis. Like you're watching the videos, and every like 5 seconds they're like cutting, and it's not like those white. It's not just those white spots. You can tell that they couldn't say a certain word the way they wanted to say, and it just comes out wrong. And I don't know. Honestly, for me, it's more like, man, like if you're gonna spend this much time, editing videos, like just spend that time researching, helping your community, answering to your community members, and plus, we all have our lives, including me. I have other things to do, other hobbies, just like you guys, other passions, and I'm trying to balance all of that. So but live streams are amazing. I'm definitely gonna do a lot more of those. It's fun, and again, if you guys can share this live stream to your friends, family, um, just have them answer question. Just add them, sorry, just have them put their question in the chat. But just tell them, you'll have someone answer them. So which is quite amazing and powerful, right? So I'm just gonna go over the platform really quickly, guys, just to make sure that I covered this really quickly. Just give me a second. And put your questions, guys. If you have any topic, really quickly, it doesn't have to be with CRISPR. It could be about anything at this point. Bitcoin, Tesla, like I mentioned. We just talked about space and SpaceX briefly, so we can talk about a bunch of stuff, right? It's definitely fun, and we can speculate on a bunch of topics. Let me just post something here. Yeah, and really quickly, guys, the live streams we're doing will not be done. they won't be done um, every day. Obviously, we done it yesterday. Yesterday was more of a test. Unfortunately, um, what's it called? Yesterday we had a broken link, whatever. But I definitely will not be doing that every single day because it is definitely time consuming. Plus, I don't think you guys really want to go on a live stream every single day. If you want content from me, you can always watch a video catalog. There's a bunch of videos. You can always interact with me. Like someone mentioned an email, I'll share my email shortly. But there's YouTube comments. There's so many other various ways to communicate with me. But I love these live streams because I can get all of us together, ask questions, get in an interaction, get a feel of what's going on in the space. Obviously, it is a bear market, so things are definitely hard with what's going on. So I definitely think, um, I definitely think this is a great medium for us to do it. Maybe not every single time, but definitely something that I'm gonna consider doing a lot more. So I'm just gonna, guys, just gonna do something here. I don't know if I can work on that. I don't know if I can find. Let me see if this is gonna work. Okay, there's something with Google that's not permitting something, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, I'm just gonna check other medium, guys. Hold it a second. Just taking a little bit of a break here as we take our coffee here. Just making sure that I cover some of the things I wanted to do here on different platforms. Okay, good. So yeah, let me pull up chat here. Mustanir, hey, shout out Mustanir, man. Thank you so much for joining the channel, Mustanir. Good work, brother. Thank you so much. I know. I was planning to do a video about my travel to Pakistan. Man, I think I'm gonna try to find some time just because I didn't want to talk about like CRISPR and companies and whatever we do in this channel, and then talk about like travel in Pakistan at the same video. It's just weird, I don't want to do that. What I do want to do is just have a dedicated video or maybe even a dedicated stream just talking about Pakistan and my travel there. It was an amazing time. Shout out to Mustanir and all my family members there. They were amazing to me, amazing to my family. It's a beautiful country, both the city and the village. It's an amazing community. People are so nice to each other. They work so hard, and it is definitely an experience to be had, especially for someone like me who's basically been born and raised at this point. I'm basically raised in a city in North America, in Montreal, and right now I'm in Toronto. But it was an experience that I will never forget. And I definitely want to go back to Pakistan for sure on a scheduled basis. It is an amazing experience, amazing food. The food was definitely amazing. Uh, I wish I could tell you guys how amazing it was. I was having a gathering yesterday. I went to my brother's house. They were the family there, and they asked me what was my favorite part, and I honestly said, the food was just so amazing. Like lamb, I ate the best meat ever. Lamb itself, again, we just talked about Beyond Meat, so I feel a little bit bad talking about this, but honestly, like the lamb was so good. It's like bio natural stuff, right? There is no mass farming there. It doesn't work like that, right? You have actual cows and uh, goats and sheeps, basically being raised on the village. Like literally, you have the best quality, in my opinion. This is natural stuff. It tastes different, but it tastes so good. And not just meat, right? Also like rice and wheat. And I ate the best breads, the best naan breads. It was just amazing experience. But besides the food, which obviously I am still salivating over, as you can tell, amazing experience. So thank you so much for the experience, Mr. Neer, and the whole family there. For sure, we're gonna do a lot more together. I appreciate so much from the love I got, and it is so important to love and share your passions. I think no matter what where you stand in life, whether you're wealthy or not, it doesn't matter. I think what matters is human connections. What matters is the time you spend in this planet, the limited time you spend in this planet, which is very limited and which is very small. I mean, I talk a lot about history in this channel, and when you study history, you feel like you're so small in this time scale, and even people that came before you are so small compared to where you are, what you can achieve. Um, and I often say this, but we stand on shoulders of giants, right? So our ancestors, doesn't matter if you're from North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Pakistan, India, Australia. It doesn't matter where you're from. What matters is you recognize that we're all humans and we all stand on shoulders of giants. And our goal here is to progress humanity forward. And that is exactly what CRISPR, as the technology in genomics, is doing. Biotech is generally doing. So that's all I wanted to say really quickly. That note. Yeah. So let me just say here. Okay, so let's take a look here. Another question from Rena. A meat tech company in Israel had some breakthroughs in growing meat in lab, but they need 3D print with fat and other ingredients so it looks like meat or steak and tastes better. Yeah, so meat tech company. Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look. There's one way to know, right? I don't even, I know you mentioned this in the past, Random, actually, but I haven't really, studied that company. Actually, it is a public company, right? MITC stock. That's amazing. 80 million market cap. That's crazy, right? That is a very small company, right? But there's potential here. Yeah, I would expect like a big company like Beyond Meat just to acquire them after everything we discussed, right? This would be a perfect acquisition. But obviously, it's a lot more complicated than I'm making it sound. But cell collection, growing cell, differentiating, growing product. Yeah, it's a lot. Looks a lot like ex vivo approach, right? Where CRISPR can do a lot here, right? But this is where I talk about factories. This is where you need to think about production factories and so on. I have no connection to meat tech. Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to tell about your affiliation. This is why Teledog's video yesterday, the live stream, I think I mentioned like 2 or 3 times, guys. I am invested in Teledog, full disclosure, and I think it's really important to say that. Yeah, definitely. It is a public company. As you guys can see, I'm doing this. This is what why live stream is amazing because I can just basically Google a company on the spot and learn from you guys. Meat Tech is 3D is developing an alternative to industrialized farming. The ethical and environmental issues surrounding conventional ways of doing things with animals is set to be disrupted, right? I really don't think there's so many documentaries out there. I think there was one documentary I listened to. This was like late 2000s, right? There was one, I forgot what it is. It just showed how animals were treated in farms. It was just so bad, guys. It was disgusting, and where we are today with all the movement, with the vegans movement, with, you know, animals movement, and even myself, right? I just told you guys, I went to Pakistan. I love the meat, but even myself, I can't help to feel bad about that, about the industrialized livestock, the whole business of like, and this was I don't know if it was a necessarily evil, but for us to have like fast food markets and for beautiful restaurants, food on demand, Uber Eats, all of that, right? For us to have all of that, there is no alternative right now that is scalable, but there are many companies that are working using 3D technology, like we see here on this chat, on this video here, on the screen here. There are many companies trying to tackle it, and then you have tools like genome editing tools from CRISPR companies that will hopefully one day approach this sector and say, you know what, we don't have to actually like kill like 1,000 cows every minute in a particular farm just to serve and you know our customers. The big company. There's like one huge company in US. What is it? Tyson? I think it's Tyson. I think it's Tyson Industry. What is it? Tyson Meat. Uh, it's like, yeah, exactly. Tyson Foods. This company is so big, guys. This is so big, and this company is set to be disrupted. I see them the same level. I know they obviously feed people, so I cannot put them in the same level as like companies that are polluting the world. But I see the same thing with Tyson Foods, the same way that Tesla is trying to tackle the oil companies, right? I see Tyson Food being that oil company that is just, destroying our animals. Like this is just taking the life out of humanity. And I know they're working um, on alternatives. I've seen it, I've heard about it, but it's like legacy autos, right? They can talk about EVs, but look, they're facing the innovator dilemma, right? Or maybe I'm totally wrong on this. Maybe, I'm not looking at this on the right lenses. Maybe, this may not be the company that we should be bashing on, or but there are obviously players that are profiting from all this animal cruelty. And I truly believe these companies like Me Tech, like Renan mentioned, that are working on these solutions, and this is why that question came about, right? Will CRISPR companies venture to animals, right? As much as I appreciate human therapeutics, and I obviously want to eradicate human diseases, and I obviously want lifespan to increase for obvious reasons, and productivity will improve, our taxes will be used better, we'll have less burden in our society. It's just calling spade a spade. When you have people that are paralyzed, people that have diseases, you need to take care of them. So it's not just about morals and ethics, but morally, I'm obliged to feel like I have to eradicate diseases, but financially it makes total sense, right? And then you see animals, what's going on morally and ethically. I cannot support that. I've seen cows, I've seen buffaloes, I've seen goats in front of me, right? Like I just told you guys, I was there just less than a month ago. I was seeing less than weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, literally, I was seeing animals just in front of me, like chickens, and I've seen them in front of me, and I just can't imagine having hundreds and thousands of them in a closed box and just drilling them and killing them. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And I don't want this channel to become like an ethics based channel where we start moral virtue signaling, but you got to call a spade a spade. This is why we're talking about this. We're not just talking about this just to have cool tech. This I often talk about how you have this revolutionary technology working on cool gadgets. Tesla with electrical vehicles. You have these AR glasses from Apple. Microsoft working on what they're working on, making more efficient products, more predictive products for us to make more money and to live better lives, to have more time in our lives. But the ultimate technology is to reach immortality, right? Is to extend the lifespan of humans and of animals and of vegetation. And to me, CRISPR does that. So call it the way you want. Hey, Sardash. Hey, thank you so much, Sardash, Suresh, Malaya. Thank you so much for joining. I know you're a big fan of the channel, a big fan of CRISPR. I've seen you in other comments, the YouTubers as well. Thank you so much for support, man. Thank you so much for joining. It's amazing to see some of your faces, guys. I do remember your names. You guys comment every single day on a daily basis. There's so many names: Frank, Jeff Miller, obviously some of the people we talk here, Ranan, and obviously Michael, Suraj, you too. So many people here that I know you guys by name, and I really do hope no matter what happens in the future, that we can sort of stay together as a community. I truly believe that, and I'm not saying that just to like. Because I'm the one speaking on the mic and I feel like obliged to say that. I truly believe, in order to have, a purpose in life, and in order to enhance our mission statement, and to be more productive and more efficient in life, we have to set ourselves in a community where we can prosper. I truly believe that. So thank you so much for joining, Suraj. And again, if you have Suraj, and if you have any question, of course, do let me know, or topic you want me to cover. Just gonna check, quick check here. Going on at 1 hour and 15. Hopefully you guys are appreciating this. This is really fun, talking about a bunch of stuff with you guys. Okay. Let's take a look. Growing animals in a farm has to be the biggest negative impact on environment. Is the biggest? Absolutely, absolutely. This is wild. What's going on? You know what? Let's drill this on. Let's let's just Google that really quickly, right? Yeah. Let's take a look at this research paper really quickly, right? We wait for other topics maybe to come about. What is it? This is from research paper, like I don't even know the date. It doesn't even look legit, but whatever. Let's take a look. I don't know if we can get some numbers like from graph. I always love like visual graphs. This is like let's take a look here. Yeah, I really think this channel in our YouTube. Yeah, look at this. Like, look at all the. This is crazy. They're talking about environmental consequence. The algae consumes all the oxygen, and then you basically have a dead zone, what we call it, obviously affecting other species, because we're all in a natural cycle. You guys have to remember we're all related to each other. For a bird to survive, a worm has to survive, and a worm to survive, a certain plant has to survive, and that certain plant has to survive in a specific environment. So if you start spilling oil on it, or better yet, if you start uh, taking them off the ground to replace them with like cement, with industries. You pollute the world, you pollute the soil. It's just gonna affect everybody, um, and including animal welfare, right? So yeah, it's so bad. Like in human practices, yeah, it's really bad. Honestly, I don't want to turn into like this virtual moral virtuing channel. I definitely don't want to do that, but I do think at some point in our channel we're gonna have to come up to a point where we have to bring this up a lot more. I already do that. If you guys watch our videos, I often talk about how CRISPR can assist, world hunger and can assist, climate change. The reason why I talk about that, right? I don't just say that just to look good or just talk about the potential CRISPR. It's actually also because I'm trying to address these problems, these inhuman practices on animals, right? It's totally unacceptable. How can we be in 2022 with what we know, with all the documentaries, with all the videos, all the cruelty we've seen, on Netflix? There's so many documentaries that are addressing it. And it's not just that, it's also our health, right? You're feeding these animals with like chemical products, and what is it doing with our health? I don't want to open a can of worms, but we talk about diabetes, we talk about diseases, we talk about mental health, we talk about depression, we talk about chronic pain, we talk about life expectancy. All of those can be affected whatever you put in your gut, right, in your stomach, right? And animals, if you start eating those animals and they're sort of fed with all of that chemical, what is it going to do to your body, right? And I don't know if it's a topic of discussion. I don't even know if we should be focusing on that particular discussion, but it is the truth, right? So it's not just you in human practices, and honestly, I do want to remind people that it's not like movies, right? People are not like freaking like waking up and so excited to kill animals. Maybe there's some psychopaths in our society doing that, but it's such a minority. I think many people in this industry are just trying to survive, right? They're trying to run their businesses. They have, a certain stock to sell to like grocery stores or to their vendors. And, it is a stressful business, especially with what the times we're living in, with, the demand being so high and, we're having supply chain issues. Um, they have expectations. It's just like a business, right? At work, it's not like you're trying to, you're waking up, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna kill so many animals today and I'm gonna be as inhuman possible. It doesn't work like that. I don't think it's like that. I truly don't believe it. I think humans were programmed to be good. I really do. I think we're being evil is just a minority, and it is just unintended consequence that happens when you are put in a position where you have no other choice to perform those evil actions, right? And I truly believe that, and I think when you have those companies like Meat Tech that Ronan mentioned, that come into play, I think um, I think you're facing a position where you can develop alternatives that can scale, whether that's with Beyond Meat, Impossible Burgers, Meat Tech, partnering up with potential CRISPR companies and trying to tackle this industry that is yet to be disrupted. So many industries are to be disrupted in healthcare when it comes to food, when it comes to health, when it comes to climate. And I truly believe the 20s and 30s will be the 2 decades will you'll be seeing those changes, but it'll be so slow. Make no mistake. Um, and this is where I really hope there was a better venue for me to talk about. I really hope I could just sit down with these CRISPR companies. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll try to make a push, just contacting their PR and just say, you know what? Can you just like partner up with these companies? Can you get in discussion? Or maybe I have to be the person to connect to these companies like Meat Tech with a CRISPR company. I don't know. Like I'm, what else can we do? There has to be something we can do as citizens with technology, with social media. Call them out on Twitter, call them out on Reddit. I'm not sure. There has to be something we can do. So. Shout out to Renan for bringing this up. I know it's a touchy subject. It's not a nice subject to have. I think a lot of people don't want to have this discussion because it's definitely a hard topic to have. But it is what it is. You gotta call a spade a spade. I often say this sentence: "Call a spade," because the truth hurts. I made that quote the other day. I said, if you're not allowed to say something in life, then it's most likely the truth, right? And the truth always hurts, right? It's always harsh. It always hurts. There's always a component to the truth that hurts. um, Sometimes you want to hear the truth, sometimes you're tempted not to hear the truth, but ultimately if you want to have a sustainable society that moves forward in human when it comes to animals, when it comes to humans, of course, when it comes to vegetation, plants, having a sustainable life, it's all about seeking the truth. And I truly believe CRISPR is seeking the truth by basically providing alternatives that can address those problems, right? So sure. So I don't know if there's other questions here as I'm going through the chat here. Um, Again, this is a reminder, we don't offer you guys anything to buy in this channel. We don't sell anything. We don't have courses to sell. We will never have courses to sell. Everything is for free. I do this out of my passion, out of this community for you guys, with you guys. So do like this video, share this video, guys. And again, if you have any questions, comment, there is the chat box. Of course, we're still running on it, but you don't have to ask live. You can always ask in the comment section in our YouTube videos. It's so amazing to interact with you guys. It's always fun, and we learn so much. Um, so I'm just gonna go over here. I don't know if I can just like talk about other things here, while maybe we wait for other questions or other comments. Um, I did want to talk about the markets. The markets were crazy. Like tomorrow, we're obviously it's a new week. It's a new Monday. It's a new date. We got to put the history behind us, but you just can't help to feel that how the markets are bleeding. It's really tough. Not just public markets, not just the stock market, but also everything with to do with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. It is just crazy. And now it's a little bit green here, but these assets have been hit so hard. There was a huge sell-off being made in the recent weeks, months. It started well before this year. Bitcoin is down like 50% at this point. Ethereum, all these cryptocurrencies are down. We talk a lot about Bitcoin in this channel, and um, I do want to reinforce the point about long-term investments, right? Always think about long term, guys. Always think about long term. Always think about um, beyond, think beyond today and next week. I know it's very hard because we as humans, we're so programmed to have everything today, right now. We want everything now. We have urges, we have dreams, goals, aspiration. Who doesn't want to achieve them today or tomorrow or next week at latest? But the truth is, if you as an investor, you got to think of long term. And when I talk about long term, I'm talking a lot more than 3, 4 months. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. This is a long term plan. Some of you investors in CRISPR know is exactly what I'm talking about. And it's crazy because some of you apply this theory in some of your segments of your life, but you don't really apply it in other segments. So, for example, when it comes to CRISPR investments, you're all good with waiting 3, 4, 5 years. But when it comes to Bitcoin, for example, some of you are invested in Bitcoin or some of you invested in Tesla, you want that stock or that price to go up like 20% next week. And it's just crazy, right? And honestly, it's a byproduct of what's going on with social media. I mean, at one point, I want to support social media for democratizing information for free. It's allowing people to interact with each other. No longer we let legacy media take the narrative, and you can bet the narrative that the legacy media has put when it comes to Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and Tesla, and other markets. They've done such a bad job covering those assets because they want to institute fear, right? What is their goal, right? What is their goal, right? Their goal is to have your eyeballs and your clicks, right? So that they get more ads from companies that are paying them to promote a certain narrative, right? And I think it's just mind-boggling that you have this legacy media like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. You have CNN, Fox, all these legacy media covering these markets, and they're not even specialists, they're not even analysts. I remember when uh, in vivo phase one data came out for NTLA 2001. CNBC, they had the CEO of CRISPR uh, company NTLA, obviously, on channel, and it was so embarrassing, right? The question they were asking and the way they were talking, you can tell when someone doesn't know what they're talking about, right? And all they know is like numbers and stock price, right? They don't even know what, like, you don't even need to, like, I'm not even asking you to watch like 100 videos and just like maybe like spend like 5 minutes instead of like talking to your colleague about stuff. Just pull up a Google and just search why is in vivo different than ex vivo? What is CRISPR all about? What is the revolutionary about CRISPR? What is the revolutionary thing about CRISPR? Like these simple questions, you can literally read like 5-10 minutes, even maybe a little bit more, 15-20 minutes, maybe watch a single video just to get the verbal side of things out of it. And then you can sort of be in a position to interview someone like NTLA, the CEO. And I just found it embarrassing. And that's what legacy media does, right? They just promote on fear. They try to always tackle down on prices on the markets. And what is the consequence of that, right? You have people that are freaking out, especially boomers. And nothing no wrong about boomers, but let's be honest, right? Those are the segments of the population that were raised with legacy media, as opposed to newer generation that are being raised through TikTok and through social media. And obviously, those are different consequences, especially when it comes to insecurities, when it comes to image, reputation, social image, digital image. That's a different topic, but my point here is that everybody's on the same basket, interacting on Reddit, on Twitter, on YouTube. And then you see this fear that is instituted. Um, it's just uh, it's just mind-boggling what's going on, and I really hope that we move past the legacy media narrative and we start thinking long term. We start thinking about fundamentals. Fundamentals have not changed for most companies. Some companies have changed their fundamentals, like Peloton. We've seen what happened with the stock with Peloton. Their fundamentals have changed, right? Their business model has changed over time, and obviously their stock price has declined ever since. But then you have companies like Tesla, companies like Netflix, companies like CRISPR companies, biotech companies, Invitae, DNA, all these companies. None of their fundamentals have changed, in my opinion, right? Everything is still intact. But markets are valuing them one way or another. We'll see where we go from there in these bear markets. But yeah. Hey Jeff, thank you so much for joining Jeff Miller. Huge fan of Jeff Miller. He's always commenting on our channel, supporting the channel, one of our early supporters. Thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you appreciate this live stream. And if there's anything, let me know. And I'm curious, as I'm not a Muslim in Islam, charging interest is not allowed. Why won't Islamic countries adopt crypto as their currency to solve the issue? Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, this is a big topic. I'm not obviously an expert or even gonna speculate on that. I do know that there are many countries in the Islamic side of things that are actually looking into Bitcoin. So, for example, Iran, I know they're looking into it. In Africa, Tanzania, I do believe Tanzania has a huge population, a Muslim population. There are many regions around the world when it comes to Islamic countries that are actually looking into uh, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But I can't really mention that. But honestly, I wouldn't go. too far with that topic. I don't. If they would enter in Bitcoin and those trades, I don't think it would be because of religion. I actually think it would be because of the association of the U.S. dollar, which is obviously another topic, maybe for another day. Um, but that's a great question, Renan. But I would definitely not spend too much time on that. I would more focus on what's going on with fiat printing and what is their incentives moving away from a dollar system that is, dominated by the U.S. and obviously with political tensions. We've seen what El Salvador did recently and what they're talking with Turkey. Turkey, which is obviously a very Islamic country, a Muslim country. They're obviously met with President uh, Naib. So recently, the president of Turkey met with President Naib, and I honestly think they didn't just meet just to talk about trade. They actually, in my opinion, they're looking to Bitcoin Turkey because of what happened with the Turkey lira. It's just been crashing. It's just crazy what's going on with Turkish lira, which is just crazy what's going on. But I truly believe Bitcoin is going to be adopted with many regions, and this is going to take time to play. Right? This is going to take time to play. People think this is going to take like 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. When El Salvador mentioned it, I remember people on Spaces, on Twitter Spaces, were thinking like, okay, next month, look, watch this. Panama is gonna address that. It's gonna be that regulation for um, Zimbabwe is gonna adopt it. It doesn't work like that. These things take years and years, guys. And El Salvador was just, one data point. We're gonna have to see other data points to come in, but it always starts with a data point in order to have a trending line. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so I think I pretty much covered what I want to do, guys. We went over CRISPR companies. We went over obviously this article from Mrs. Hope Anderson. She is an amazing writer on IGI's website. A shout out to her. I wish she was here on the live stream to hear all these compliments, but she's written beautiful articles. So I really wanted to go over that and talk about the FDA approval. I also want to talk about public markets just in general. And obviously, we talked a lot about other venues that CRISPR companies can venture into, specifically about animal farms, livestock, agriculture, legumes, fruits. And we talk about diseases, human diseases, but also non-human diseases. Thanks. I have to go. Thank you so much, Renan. I have to go as well. So I'm going to be ending the stream here. So again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Beautiful, beautiful live stream. Like I said, I'll try to make this on a weekly basis or at least on a bi-weekly basis. It won't be every weekends, of course. I cannot do that. It's just too much time consuming, and I'm sure you guys have better things to do than listen to me for an hour and a half, or 2 hours. But next time, again, as our channel grows, we'll have more questions, more interactions. Thank you so much, guys. This was again yesterday was just a test. Today, this is more a little bit more official with our live stream. Love how the tempo, love how we went today. I appreciate it. I know you guys do. I'm taking your time out of Sunday to talk to me, which I appreciate so much. It's a pleasure to serve you guys. And again, if you have any question, leave me in the comments below. Do share this video, like this video. I think this is the next era of genomics. This is the next era of technology where we make this information for free available to the public, whether that's CRISPR, whether that's genome editing, other tools, whether that's genomics and VTA, DNA, BNGO, Pacific Biosciences. We're going to talk about the big ideas this week from ARK Invest. There are so many things going on this week. We'll see how the public markets react. Thank you so much for watching. I'll end this video like this. Again, do subscribe, do like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful Sunday and we'll see each other in the next video, of course, during the week. Thank you so much.